fun, but hope nobody lost anything. Welcome to Halifax Harbour, everybody. The Halifax Harbour is actually the second largest ice cream harbour in the world, just after the one in Sydney, Australia. There on the left-hand side is the Naval Dockyard. We actually have the largest naval dockyard in Canada. I mean, there is only two, but we're number one, so take that, BC. And sometimes on tours, we'll see seals in the harbour. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled. Maybe we'll see one come say hi today. We have three types of seals here in the Halifax Harbour. We have grey seals, harbour seals, and the Navy seals. Was originally owned and operated by Caesars, but went bankrupt back in 2005. It's now owned and operated by the Canadian Gambling Association. They also have a really good seafood buffet. Towers here on the right-hand side are the prettiest Wharf Towers. They're two of the most photographed buildings in Halifax. They look really nice during sunrise and sunset with the light reflecting off of them. And actually, because of all the windows and the glass, the buildings use water from the harbour up to the pipes on the side of the building to keep them cool in the summer and to keep their AC bill down. Side is Dartmouth, and Dartmouth is Halifax's sister city. It's also known as the city of lakes, as there's 23 lakes over there in Dartmouth. But downtown Dartmouth has come up a lot in the past few years. There's some really nice restaurants, cafes, shopping, and there's some really nice walking trails. And honestly, the view of Dartmouth isn't the greatest, but the view of Halifax from Dartmouth is pretty nice, so I recommend a trip over. My favorite way to get over to Dartmouth is by the ferry, and we actually have one of the longest running saltwater ferry systems in North America here. So the ferry started off as one man in a rowboat all by himself. He was able to take over one person at a time, and it would take about 2.5 hours to row from Halifax over to Dartmouth. Thankfully though, nowadays the ferry only takes about 10 minutes, and you won't be stuck on a rowboat with a strange man for 2.5 hours, so I think it's worth the journey over. I also like to mention those 3 murals on the front of the Marriott Hotel there. Those murals are actually done by students at NASCAD University. They change them out every few weeks to get them a little bit of exposure. Historic properties. They were built back in the late 1700s and early 1800s, and they used to house privateers and the things they would have up for auction. And privateers were essentially legal pirates that were commissioned by the crown. Nowadays, the historic properties are home to some shops, some great restaurants and bars. Touch on some of my favorites like Pickford and Black and the Lower Deck. Wharf with the red building on it is the Cable Wharf. The Cable Wharf is one of the wharfs on the board route that comes out the furthest. It's also home with the Cable Wharf restaurant, which has some really great seafood. You can book wine cruises, booze cruises, country cruises from here. I took a cruise myself last weekend. What I remember, it was pretty fun. structure right here is called the Beacon, and every night at high tide, it will shoot a beacon of light up. It was only completed about a week ago. And just past the beacon here are the Queen's Mark steps. People use the steps as an invitation to swim in the harbor. I personally wouldn't swim in the harbor. I'm not the strongest swimmer. It's cold, it's deep. But you know what? On a hot day, it might not be too bad. Here on the right-hand side, the ship here is the Css Acadia. It was built back in 1913. It survived both World Wars and was actually in the water during the Halifax explosion. It was decommissioned back in 1969, and it's now the largest artifact they have there at the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic. You can walk right onto it. And the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic is this building right here with all the flags on it. They actually have the largest collection of wooden artifacts from the Titanic in the world. If you guys want to see a little bit more about Titanic or the Halifax explosion, I'll definitely go and check it out. This white and blue ship right here is the Hmcs Southpaw. It's a model of this in the public gardens. And the Hmcs Southpaw is actually the last remaining out of over 220 corvette vessels that were made during World War II. The corvette ships would often lead convoys out in the war, and this is the last standing one here. You can also walk right onto it for a tour for free. The glass building here is the Summit Building, and back in 1995 we actually held the G7 Summit right here in Halifax. So the island over there on the right-hand side with the lighthouse on it is George's Island. George's Island is home to Fort Charlotte, and on it there you'll see one of those signaling posts that was part of the system throughout the province. There's also lots of tunnels that go through George's Island. A man used to live there, but when the lighthouse became automated, he moved back up onto land. Still lives there anymore. If you guys are interested in more about George's Island, they do tours every weekend. For a few moments here, I'll come around if you guys want a picture or want have any questions, and I'll be back. Oh, everyone's tied up.